Pure focus, unadulterated. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Mind Over Matters, the live stream where your mind actually matters. My name is Sime, and hosting the show with me today is the usuals, Tak, Adam and Samad. Every week, the four of us discuss and debate the hottest topics as requested by our viewers and listeners. We'll be live monitoring the chat and comments on YouTube, Periscope, Twitch and Instagram, so please send in your questions or simply tell us what matters are on your mind. So Adam, what topics have we got lined up for today?
Well, the topics that we got lined up, one of the biggest ones is the situation in Victoria about the coronavirus lockdown and how we're going to be the roadmap on how we're going to escape the lockdown here in Victoria. But one really
there's no
important.
escape.
There's no escape. You don't think? We'll see. We'll get to it. But the first topic that that was requested by the audience was talking about China. And for a while, we've wanted to actually talk about the situation in China regarding the Uyghur Muslims, and because they're a minority population there. Now, just for people who don't know who the Uyghur Muslims are, or if you haven't heard of them, they're essentially a Turkic-speaking Muslim minority ethnic group native to the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of northwestern China. Again, northwestern China, this area kind of borders with Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkey, and there's about 12 million living in China. But as there's been kind of more global attention because of the whole situation with China kind of antagonizing everyone at the moment, it's kind of shined a little bit of a light to the kind of human rights situation of the Uyghur Muslims in China at the moment. So I guess first and foremost, we'll go around the panel and talk about what was everybody's kind of first exposure to the Uyghur Muslim problem at the moment, the things that they're facing. I guess I'll go first. For me, I didn't know really anything about them until Samad actually told me during Ramadan, hey, let's go to this restaurant, and it's it's like a Uyghur restaurant. I'm like, a what restaurant? What is this? And he had to explain to me exactly who they are, what's going on. I was like, oh, okay. And the food was really dope. So that was my first exposure. And then I just started seeing everything about it. It's I forget what the effect of it's called. When you start seeing something, you hear of something and then you start seeing it everywhere. That's what started happening to me when it came
to the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What about you, Summer? How did you kind of get clued in about the situation?
Well, I think the first time I ever came across the Uyghur Muslims was actually at school. One of my classmates was from that region, his family was from that region, and they identified themselves or that region as East Turkestan. Mm-hmm. So if you actually look it up, it was at one stage it was called Second East Turkestan, and it was backed by the Soviet Union, and it was an autonomous region. So look, people till this day who are living away from that region, of course, I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to say that in China anymore.
Yeah, look, there's a reason why I said it's the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, right? Because it's the, I guess, politically neutral term to call that area. So
So that's how that was my first ever exposure, and I remember him because we were pretty young, and this is going back in grade 7 and 8. Mm-hmm. He was explaining how there's these problems and they're still trying to get independence. That was the first time, and then of course the food comes into play. The same place, because I completely forgot about it after graduating from high school, and I always used to see that restaurant, the one that I took you to. Mm-hmm. I always used to see it, but I never went in. And then one day I decided to go in and try the food, and it was absolutely amazing. So I also, encourage anyone who can find a Uyghur restaurant to go and try it. There's a couple
of this world good.
Yeah, it's a crazy fusion, and you'll find so many different flavors, so many different flavor profiles coming together and making sense, which is in my opinion, it's one of the greatest cuisines out there.
Usually I'm not a big fan of Chinese cuisine.
But it's not
And
just
and
any
that's the thing. I was
Chinese.
like, oh, it's gonna just be Chinese food, and it's like, no, it isn't. It's like actually totally different.
It's amazing, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think you've described it very accurately, Samad. It's a fusion of like Turkic food,
Because they are
but
Turks.
presented in using local Chinese ingredients, and so that it's just a completely different flavor profile. But
the herbs and everything just come together really nicely. So yeah, I do encourage anyone who goes to the city.
Yeah, support your local Uyghur, restaurants.
We had a few people in the
stores.
chat asking for a link to the restaurant. So
Yeah, we'll get someone will get on it.
Yeah.
Someone's on
and to answer Heba's question, are they a majority Muslim population? Yes, correct. They are
majority Muslim. Yes.
a majority Sunni Muslim population.
And in fact, the language is written in the Arabic text. So the language that they speak is still written. The Turkic language they speak is still written in that the original format, which is now banned, by the way. So in that region,
Really?
Wow.
yeah. So what they've done is they've stripped off any signage or any literature that was present. Of course, you can still find stuff in people's homes who have survived.
Yeah, people
hidden
still-
it away, but for the most part, there was actually a documentary done that showed what it looked like before and now what it's looking like. So it's been stripped down. A lot of mosques have been emptied out.
Yeah.
It's kind of reminiscent of all the sort of when the French colonized like a lot of countries, like in Asia, especially. A lot of people like an example is Vietnam. Like they had a language before the language they have now, but not many people can read it because when the French came in and they colonized them,
They
made them change their whole language up. So it's quite disturbing.
Yeah, so same thing with the Spanish when they came to South America, right? A lot of the kind of languages in South America are like dead languages for the most part. What about you, Nihal? What was your attack? What was your kind of exposure to the Uyghur Muslims?
I guess
Situation there.
my first, I've never met someone from that region. I don't think many Uyghur people live
It's a very small
in the West, especially.
Yeah.
But most of my information came from seeing it online. I remember TikTok when I used to have TikTok before we aired our first episode and convinced everyone to delete it. Hopefully they listen to us, but so before I deleted TikTok, I remember there was this video. It was pretty viral. It was this girl and she was doing makeup and it just looked like a normal makeup tutorial. And then it turns out that she's actually talking about the situation and what they're doing, like the ethnic cleansing of the Uyghur people in China. And I remember just seeing it. I'm like, wow, like I heard about it, but I didn't know it was that deep until she started talking about it. And I was like, wow, like this runs really deep, so that was kind of my first exposure to the whole situation going on in China in regards to the Uyghur people. And it was interesting because I think they deleted, because obviously it's a Chinese owned company, they made her delete her TikTok. They took it down because
it's a shame they didn't take down the whole of TikTok.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, facts. But they didn't. They said she breached community guidelines, but there's nothing there.
Well, yeah, because they're breaching Chinese security law. Again, go back to our TikTok kind of podcast where we broke that all down, right? China has autonomous control. Sorry, not autonomous control, but a lot of power in Chinese-owned companies to do whatever the government wants it to do by law. So it's not a surprise that it's the same thing with Zoom. I think we're on Zoom now, and I'm pretty sure Zoom took down an account of somebody who was talking about China.
And they might take us down 5 minutes into this.
Oh, we love China on this podcast. If you've listened to our podcast,
yeah, we love China.
We love
it's your
China.
background.
We're
look
still
at
a little
this,
bit confused
Look at that.
about how we feel about the CCP, but China, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have anything against China as a nation, just CCP.
Or as a people.
We should make that.
The government.
Yeah, the government. Yeah. And what about you, Simon? What was your kind of first exposure to the kind of Uyghur Muslim population and stuff going on there?
Yeah, I think like most other people, I came to know about it through social media posts, and like all, I think like most activism and issues, they present first in your timeline. But this was a little bit different because this was, and I'm going back maybe 4 years, maybe just over 4 years ago, and but on this occasion, it was people that I highly regarded and respected that were posting about what was going on, and you know, there were very loaded words like genocide and concentration camps, and obviously words like that, they attract attention, and you know, I think there was always, at least as far as I remember, 4 maybe even 5 years ago, the Muslim community were talking about these issues. I don't think it made much. It didn't gain really momentum in mainstream news until more recently, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years, maybe 18 months ago. But it's been well talked about within certain circles, like activist communities and Muslim communities, for some time now. And I think the issue originates or goes back even further. So it's you know, even the Muslim community were late to the game, even though they've been
talked
talking
about
about
for
it
a very long time.
Yeah, they've been talking about it for 4 or 5 years. But really, this issue and the persecution of the Uyghur Muslims have been going on for some time, and I don't know whether you know, how much our audience knows about, you know, the kind of how this conflict started. But think about, I mean, Adam, you mentioned that you know, they're an ethnic minority within the Xinjiang province, and there's been, you know, if you think back to the Cultural Revolution in China, and under Mao Zedong, there was wide scale kind of cultural oppression. There were mosques that were torn down at the time, and this is not just again, it wasn't just against Muslims.
That's correct. It's like you know, if there was like giant like statues of Jesus that were like taken down,
absolutely. And I think there's another episode to be had about what actually happened there, and whether we're in the throes of repeating history in some way. But we can come back to that in a future podcast.
Let us know. Let us know if you guys want us to talk about it.
We want to talk about the Cultural Revolution and other revolutions. But that's so that, you know, after that point, you know, there were like mosques torn down during the Cultural Revolution. There was the Quran.
Well, that is happening right now. That is also
and that's right. But that stopped after, you know, the passing, you know, of Mao Zedong, and that Cultural Revolution ended. But you know, obviously the Communist ruling party is still around, and over the last 2 decades, there's been a lot more power and influence exerted by CCP or Chinese Communist Party officials within the province that the Uyghur Muslims are a minority within, and they've been feeling for the last 2 decades, if not longer, that they're being persecuted because they are a minority, and their voice has not been heard. And I think around, and there were protests, there were rallies they used to run, so they're protesting on the streets, and the majority of the population are Han people, Han, within that province. And so it was an ethnic conflict between the Uyghur minority and the Han majority.
The Han dynasty,
and that took to the streets, and there was, you know, some brawling. There was during these riots.
In a bit. So like what you're explaining, because I remember we were talking about this for a long time, right? We've been wanting to talk about this topic since pretty much we started the podcast, and
I'm pretty sure we mentioned it in the first one.
We were like brainstorming different topics. So like I did my research around that time, and it's hard to believe what, you know, instigated it to become like this right now, right?
What is the Franz Ferdinand of the situation?
Exactly.
Like,
you know,
everyone has a perspective,
and I think the main difference, like from what I was reading, was that there's a lot of political struggle, as Simon mentioned about the protests and this and that. I also read, but again, with China, it's hard to know what's true and what's fabricated. But apparently there was like a terrorist attack that happened at a train station, which kind of was instigated by Uyghur Muslims, allegedly. And that kind of incited the people to be like, oh, like we have to do something about them. And that's when kind of the legal bill passed to kind of streamline this whole, lack of a better word, concentration camp.
Yeah. They're called re-education camps. Thank you very
Re-education,
much.
mate.
Come on, mate.
Use the
Come
lower
on, look
words here.
at what
We're not allowed to
this
use
says.
the C
China
word.
friendly.
You're gonna hurt their
The only,
feelings, man.
the only C word we're allowed to use is China.
China.
But I want
that's
to rewind
that's what
because
I
you make
read.
a good point. You make a very good point, but I think you've fast forwarded a little bit too much.
Okay.
Because really the Uyghur Muslims within the Xinjiang province have been haven't had a voice for them, and they've been drowned out by the will of the CCP and the majority people. Now think about the majority, which are Han people, and again, lovely people. I'm sure they are, but the Uyghur Muslims there were clashes. Their voice wasn't heard. Protesting happened. And someone created a rumor that some Uyghur Muslims had raped some woman, and that caused even inflamed the situation, and that resulted in a couple of Han people being killed, and the situation's kind of exploded since then. So the Uyghur Muslims, their demand is that as a minority, we want our voice to be heard, and we want some representation, and that's been denied to them, and so they're looking for, and that's resulted in some people going into kind of, I guess, what you've described, right? There's been some terrorist attacks by some the Uyghur
Minority,
men, and that's involved. That's given the state a justification for this re-education. What do they call them? Camps or
re-education,
vacation,
re-education, re-education, vacation. Yeah. I like it.
It's a forced vacation.
No, it's a free vacation. Come on. We gotta.
It's forced and free, man.
God damn. But
I guess if it's forced, it is free.
The question is what the motivation of the CCP in I guess running these re-education or detention of the Uyghur Muslims and re-education. The main justification is that they're trying to curb they're claiming that's to stop terrorism, but if you look at the actions they've taken, which is, and the actions that we know of, right? Obviously, a lot of things are still.
Well, they don't just say terrorism. They go after religious extremism. That's
absolutely.
That's a narrative that they go with.
We had a question from the chat from Hiba. What are they educating someone? Inform me, please. So, in terms of like the education part, I think from what the CCP are saying, they're trying to educate them to not be terrorists
and be loyal to the
and to show allegiance to China
and be loyal to their government, to the Chinese government,
promoting social cohesion by destroying any difference that might,
or religious force.
For example, they're forced to
assimilation,
drink alcohol,
eat pork.
They're also not allowed to fast. They're also not allowed to pray. Inside these re-education camps, because that's considered, in their eyes, that's considered extremism, because that's practicing.
Even growing a beard is considered extremism.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and there's some wild claims as well about women being raped by
by the men. They're forced to sleep with the men that are manning these camps.
Well, that's the thing, because one of the reasons why the whole Uyghur Muslim situation has kind of come back recently is due to the release of Mulan, Disney's Mulan. I promise you, this isn't a Mind Under Matter show, but I am just pointing out that Mulan recently did come out. Much to apparently, it's not doing very well in China.
No, it's not doing it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, man.
I think that's to do with the main actress. She's I think
Well,
she's
no, it's not doing bad in China because of the main actress. But the
Isn't it because she's
controversy.
like pro Hong Kong.
Hong
Yeah,
Kong
but then
police.
but then
Yeah.
if she's
Yeah.
pro, no, she's not pro. Yeah, pro Hong Kong police.
Police.
Ah,
Yeah.
police.
Hong
okay,
Kong
yeah.
police. Hong Kong police
Yeah.
are pro China. So
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
so
fair enough.
you would think it would be popular in China.
Yeah.
In China in particular, they're actually big fans of the kind of Hong Kong wire martial art films, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, those kind of
Great
movies.
film though. That Crouching
Yeah,
Tiger,
great
Hidden
film.
Dragon.
Really,
Yeah.
great film. But not Mulan apparently. Which kind of, despite borrowing a lot of the DNA from those kind of movies, it hasn't been doing too well. But the big controversy has kind of come up again because, like you mentioned earlier, Tak, the main actress who plays Mulan, kind of got into trouble because of her support for the Hong Kong police. Her father's like a really high-ranking member of the CCP. But it got recently revealed, I think it's on The Guardian, that Disney's Mulan, they kind of had like during like credits and stuff, they thank certain people. They thanked like I think about like 8 people for filming in Xianjing. Which is obviously the area where
where the
where they have re-education camps
Yeah.
for Uyghur Muslims. So and has been documented. Like I think as far back as 2018, they did an expose about the camps that are over there and the conditions and stuff. So that's kind of the reason. It's like, oh yeah, well, Disney is more than happy to film in a location where they're taking people against their will and re-educating them. And we're just filming a family-friendly movie, mate. Just for the kids. So
Girl power.
I'm more than happy for Mulan to fail. It looked really crap. Anyways, Mushu's not even in it. What's up with that? Am I right?
Apparently, it's some phoenix bird thingy.
Well, yeah, but
Not even a
they
dragon.
even screw up the phoenix bird because the phoenix in like traditional kind of Western kind of
Mythology,
mythology is like rebirth, but in China it's supposed to signify royalty. So it really kind of doesn't make sense contextually that Mulan would have any kind of interaction with the phoenix, right? But yeah, so that's the main reason why.
It's also very if you look at the issue itself, the re-education camps, like we were talking about before, Mulan is it's one of the reasons why it was so famous is because it shows a strong female character, who's able to hold the ground, and also in this movie they're trying to show that she goes into battles, but at the same time you have the Chinese government letting women be raped by
that's correct.
Security guards being and as the chat mentioned, being women being forced to marry Han men for diversity and to I guess so they can have they had the Han babies and so it's the hypocrisy is just
I kind
on
of
another
wanna,
scale.
I kind of want to shift the attention to obviously it's become more widely known now and it's trending a bit now in circles that like people wouldn't usually know about. So it's good to see that people are actually learning about it, especially in like Western countries and that what's going on. There are a lot of people that are talking about it. I don't think the higher ups are talking about it, and maybe we'll get into that later. But
business.
Social influencers and all your social media personalities, they're all talking about it, right? But one thing I want to point attention to is recently there was like a stat going around. There's an Instagram post about apparently the death rate in these re-education camps have reached beyond the Jewish Holocaust. So that's over 6 million. But that's not correct. Because
as in it's more or
well, it could be more, it could be less, but the source that it was, I'll pull it up now because I saw it on my
that'd be good if you could. In the meantime, go ahead.
So it's it was a post a lot of people were putting on their Instagram stories. It's Lowati on IG. If I'm calling you out, too bad. So they literally created their account in July this year, and they only have like 35 followers, and they posted this this stat.
Statistic.
Yeah.
This figure, and everyone was just retweeting it everywhere, right?
Without questioning where the
without
stat
que-
came
The
from.
validity.
Exactly, yeah. And
I
I
mean,
think
what-
I think this was a good
Just-
tie-in to like the next topic that we talk about later on. But a lot of people just seeing what they take on social media and just posting it.
And as long as it supports your argument,
Yeah,
and that's
like
yeah.
it shouldn't take away from the fact
Yeah.
that there have, most likely been a lot of deaths in these camps, and a lot of people have been affected by it.
But it
There's-
gives
there's no real
ammunition. It gives ammunition to people to be like, oh, it's not that bad, therefore don't listen. Ignore the
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, I'm
you're
always-
exaggerating it.
it
Yeah.
undermines the actual issue by
Yeah.
when you present false facts here.
Yeah, I'm also always just intrigued by why people feel the need to create these false, fake statistics when
Well, it's-
the issue itself that you're putting
So severe,
millions
man.
of people
Yeah.
in detention facilities and then forcing them to re-educate or unlearn their culture and their religion. That alone, and this is a known fact, that alone is bad enough. You don't need to then make up a statistic that 6 million people have been
I don't
killed
know.
in these camps. right?
over 6 million. They're saying.
Over 6
Well, I think the main thing is supposed to kind of like connect it to another major event that
Yeah.
people
Yeah, the genocide.
care
I mean,
about,
yeah.
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
like a lot of people have drawn that conclusion that like the reason why the Holocaust was allowed to be as big as it was is because people turned a blind eye, and I think that is important because that's what's happening right now. There are a lot of people that are turning a blind eye.
Yeah, I mean it's more pervasive than that. Like it's not just turning the blind eye. I mean if you and let me read this out to you. So many of the 46 developing countries in Africa and the Middle East that have received significant Chinese investment and believes Beijing's narrative about extremism, right? So that basically 46 nations have endorsed China's approach to locking these people up as a means to
I'm pretty sure it was
curbing
Saudi Arabia as well.
extremism. And so further, that includes 22 members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. So 22 members of the Islamic Cooperation, and I don't know how many members there are of that organization. I'm assuming Saudi is one of them. But they not only turning a blind eye, they've actively endorsed China's approach to curbing extremism through the use of these. And this is even after the details of what that China were doing were leaked, and these facts came out about the re-education camps. I have a tendency to keep calling concentration camps, but I need to stop myself. It's not what it is. But
What happened? Adam, sure.
No. I'm just laughing at Simon. Just like every time he says the entire word concentration, and then he goes on and
I
say,
take it back.
I'm watching you, mate. You're saying most of the word anyway.
I've said it, so let's just embrace that word from here on in.
Yeah, let's just call it what it is.
Yeah. I mean, look,
sugarcoating it.
I mean, and look, that's kind of like a big problem that we're seeing at the moment about like how connected the tentacles of China is to every country and how much of an influence they have, right? Like,
especially in the developing countries.
I think, one of the funniest things, and to be honest, it's very embarrassing. I saw Imran Khan, who's the Prime Minister of Pakistan, deny on live television that deny the existence of the concentration camps and even the oppression, let alone a planned genocide. We're talking about the oppression itself. He denied it outright when there's been cases because Pakistan neighbors China, so there's a lot of Pakistanis who go to China for work and Chinese who come to Pakistan for work as well, and they've married into the Uyghur families, and so they've got partners who are in concentration camps, and they've been protesting, they've been putting out petitions one after another. They've been trying to get in touch with the Prime Minister, who just denies their existence because he's got strong ties with China. The moment he speaks out about China, he's going to lose a lot of that support that he's got, and a lot of that money.
The economy is going to collapse, man.
Yeah,
like if they don't have that Chinese money.
They got them by the balls.
A lot of countries, like I used to see a lot of posts even before, the Uyghur Muslims, like this started trending online and stuff. Even a lot of people have heard of Akon, how he's like built this crazy city. He's like really, redeveloped. I can't remember
He's
exactly
building
which country it
Wakanda.
is. Pretty
Really?
much.
Icon,
Not
yeah.
Wakanda, but he's
Oh,
What
like
kind of joke is that?
but he's doing really good stuff for his community back. I can't say which country. Like I don't want
Isn't
to be
it
wrong.
Senegal?
It
He's
might
from
be.
Senegal, but I'm not sure
Yeah.
if he's.
Oh,
it
as
might-
in where he's
yeah.
setting it up is not in Senegal.
Could be. I can look it
yeah,
up.
like I'm not
Yeah,
100%
fact check
sure,
us.
but
I'll do
I
that.
know he's developing like really going in on developing this one city or maybe even a country in Africa. But yeah, and then there are a lot of sources that found out that a lot of the money that was funding it, because I mean, like the guy has been out of the music industry for a while, so it's going to be hard for him to fund, the whole revamping of a whole city or a country or whatever. So apparently, a lot of this money has come from Chinese investors.
Yeah.
I do want to add to that that
It is in Senegal, by the way.
Senegal. Okay.
Yeah.
Even if the Chinese get really upset at Pakistan or any of these 46 nations that the China's tentacles have reached, and China's providing infrastructure funding, right? If these countries on principle alone, on moral grounds, said no, this what China's doing is wrong, and China were to stop funding infrastructure projects, it wouldn't send these countries to bankruptcy.
It wouldn't. It's just
what
greed.
it would do.
It's
It
greed.
would, yeah, it's greed. There's people that have political power, that are in power, that are making money off the backs of these projects that China is funding, and their pockets get affected if any criticism of China occurs. So
I agree with you.
Yeah, and that's why they're not saying these economies won't collapse. Definitely not.
Well, I was going to say, because most of the kind of, the tentacles that I mentioned earlier is the influence that China is doing through the Belt and Road Initiative, right? Now, I'm wondering, Sama, do you know about, like, if Pakistan is a part of,
Oh, yes.
building that infrastructure? I actually don't know.
A big part. I think they've built one of the, I think the world's, I think, what is it called? Is it like, it's one of the biggest highways, or the longest, I wouldn't say biggest, the longest highways to exist between two countries. And that's built by China. By the way, that highway was built from a port leading into China, where China uses, of course, for free because they built it. And they also use that port for free because, now they've built the port, and they've also built the road that attaches to it. So they've got a free port, and they're doing this in many countries where they're establishing ports and quote unquote piers, which are so big that they can fit almost a naval ship.
Well, would you say that they are essentially making makeshift like military bases
In smaller countries, not in Pakistan, of course.
Not in Pakistan?
No.
Because I know they did that in Sri Lanka, because they basically there was like there was this big deal like that they kind of essentially did.
I don't think people in Pakistan would be too happy about another army force. I remember when the Afghanistan war started. I think
People in Saudi Arabia don't want American bases there.
I mean,
yeah, but they still
doesn't
got
stop them.
But I mean, like the tensions between China and India might, I don't know.
Things might change.
push,
You never
yeah.
know. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, I'm with these things, especially with countries like.
Actually, hey, I never really asked. Maybe one of you guys can answer. What's Bangladesh's stance on China? I actually don't know. Like,
Right,
do we love China? Do we hate China?
If there's money coming in from another country,
you know the answer.
Is
Do I
it-
need to line my
Got it.
pockets? And if the
Right.
answer is yes, then
Yeah.
yes, they're in
Adam,
favor of
Adam,
China.
Adam, didn't you tell us that Bangladesh is also technically a communist,
I think it's like a non-Marxist Leninist
non-Marxist
country.
Leninist? Yeah,
Yeah, like in its constitution time.
yeah.
Well, because the constitution of and it's not just Bangladesh, Pakistan as well. Pakistan and Bangladesh's constitution was based on the Russian
Because they're
constitution.
republics. Yeah, because they're.
But where Bangladesh draws the line is that they don't actually
Put people in
recognize Israel as a nation, as a full nation.
Oh,
It actually says on the Bangladeshi passport. The passport.
neither does Pakistan. Neither does
Yeah.
Pakistan. Yeah.
So
Our
at
countries
least
don't recognize
we're not
No.
celebrating one.
I think
I
it's,
think-
you know what? It's probably reciprocal.
Probably reciprocal. Yeah,
No, but-
yeah,
no,
probably.
but-
just as
I remember
Pakistan.
Israel recognized Bangladesh, and they're like, "Nah, mate, we're cool."
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah,
they
one of
actually
those.
do recognize
Do they?
Bangladesh. We're like, nah. It's even
No,
in
no, they
the
probably
Bangladesh
just recognize
passport.
Bangladesh as East Pakistan, right?
Nah.
So yeah, to kind of go, speaking of how we were talking about earlier about like the re-education camps, concentration camps, like someone was saying, like Uyghur women are forced to share beds with Chinese officials after their husbands were detained.
I wouldn't put
for these.
forced because they actually are being forced.
Well, no, I'm
I
saying
wouldn't put the
I'm saying forced more
quotation.
as it's not really what's being called as forced to share beds isn't what it actually is.
Oh,
They're not
okay,
just
yeah,
sharing beds.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
And also the other big thing is China imposing forced abortions, sterilizations on
Yeah.
women too.
Yeah,
In order to
they're
reduce
forcing-
birth rates. We were talking about
Birth
in
rates,
a
last
previous
episode.
podcast. Yeah, in a previous
Yeah.
last episode actually.
Yeah.
And how in order to kind of have a civilization functioning or have a people kind of survive, you need birth rates to kind of maintain the population. And so what China's pretty good at kind of decreasing the population when necessary
Yeah.
with the one China policy,
child rule, yeah.
one child
child
policy.
rule.
Sorry.
Mm.
The one China policy is a completely
was it?
different policy. I'm getting
Yeah.
that confused. The one child policy and the one China policy are two different things. But yeah, like controlling populations of Uyghur Muslims is through sterilization, through abortion. It's literally a form of genocide. Quite literally.
Yeah, I think I've got a statistic around this. So there was a report that was released earlier this year. Among the findings were that birth rates plummeted 84% from 2015 to 2018 in Xinjiang's two major Uyghur prefectures. So think about in the 3 or 4 year period, the birth rates plummeted 84%. And so this is a product of what you're saying, right? This is forced sterilization, forced abortions, and there are doctors, both male and female Chinese doctors that are non-Uyghur Muslim doctors who are saying that they've been asked to make these procedures, and there's just graphic and horrific stories that have come out
I've
about
heard
this.
like also about on that point, the doctors that are in charge of sterilizing like men and women that are from that region. There's stories that they don't even have the required equipment, so they get like a lot of makeshift equipment. So like not only are they sterilizing them by force, they're not even doing it right.
Yeah.
Like hygienically
Yeah,
and like
hygienically,
safely.
yeah. So it could lead to even more problems and complications.
Oh,
in
they
the
couldn't
future.
care less.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the whole plan.
And
anyway.
That's the whole point. Yeah.
And this kind of leads to then question the rationale that China's used to run these re-education camps, which is to curb terrorism and extremism. Well, what has birth rates then got to do with extremism, right? If you're forced sterilizing women and men, right?
I guess
loosely,
less
you can loosely
extremists,
find
right?
a link, but I mean, you can create a link between anything. But I'm saying is your kind of the stories we're hearing of forced sterilization, of rape, of these other kind of horrific stories that are coming out. This has got nothing to do with just re-education.
I mean, they would hide behind the phrases like, prevention is better than cure. That's because right now they're trying to cure people, but if you prevent them from reproducing altogether, you got nothing to worry about.
I wanted to share just one more little kind of tidbit here. So in July, and this is July this year, July this year, yes, US Customs officials intercepted a 13-ton shipment of beauty products made out of human hair from the region.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
From that region, and a video of blindfolded prisoners being led into train cars went viral. So we saw those videos of the kind of people loaded into train cars, in China. And then-
Blindfolded and
Yeah,
and also hand
blindfolded.
hand tied down.
hand
Oh, it's
tied
just a
down.
surprise, mate. They're just taking him to a surprise, like a birthday
Yeah.
surprise, mate. That's it. Yeah. Why are you fighting it?
That's how you get your free ticket to the re-education camp,
Oh,
right?
the
They
free
blindfold
vacation,
you.
right?
the
Yeah.
free
Yeah,
vacation.
it's a surprise vacation.
Yeah, it's like a
guys.
Willy Wonka, like
Yeah.
trip. You open
Like
the right candy bar and you go to the correct
and
train.
at the surprise vacation, you get a surprise vasectomy.
Mm,
Oh,
yeah.
That's your birthday present.
Damn, Willy.
Happy birthday.
permanent
yeah.
birth control.
And that's the thing, right? Like they're using the population that are kept in these internment camps for forced labor, right? Back in July there was with all the COVID-19 stuff happening, it was found that Uyghur Muslim labor was being used in order to produce face masks, right? So another thing, an Australian study actually, a report came out that essentially found that between 2017 and 2019, 83 multinational companies were using forced Uyghur Muslim labor in factories for their products, including Nike, Adidas, Apple, Microsoft, and Samsung.
I saw the list.
Again,
Wow.
this is Nike, given that, these are the people who are like, oh, we love, minorities, we love Black Lives Matter, but, they don't care about, Muslim minorities being taken advantage of to make their shoes in order to make their products, right? Like, this is a kind of like two-faced, kind of low IQ
Just
activism that I see from corporations that don't actually give a shit about minorities and
they
people
couldn't
being
care
oppressed
about
around
it.
the
They
world.
just thought maybe.
Sorry, just
maybe
like
they're
me
just-
ranting
yeah,
for a bit, but it
grifting.
really
They're just
pissed me
grifting.
off.
They probably thought this would like not be
get out, in
Yeah.
the public, yeah.
like because
No. They don't give a shit about it going out because it's not going to affect the vast majority of people like in Western countries because you can be detached from all the stuff happening there, right? People hopefully when they become more aware over time might attempt to try and boycott these companies, but in the end it's going to be a decision between do I get cheap shoes or do I care about human rights? And unfortunately cheap shoes seems to win out every single time. So
And no one's going to
not
fight a
even
war
cheap.
with China over this.
The shoes aren't even cheap.
not even
the shoes
That's
aren't
the
even
worst
cheap.
part. Oh my god! The worst part is you've paid someone 50 cents an hour to put together these $400 pair of shoes. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I also want to bring about the point, and I think it kind of flew under the radar about how India's sort of adopting the same ideals, not the same, but like along the same lines when they were stripping people of citizenship, and it turned out majority of them were from like Muslim provinces as well.
Well, they were targeting Muslims.
Yeah, they
more.
were targeting Muslim.
Yeah.
And then you had like, I mean, there were rumors, who knows, but they were actually building concentration camps as well. Oh, sorry, re-education camps along the same lines. But I think
It was a bit.
At
it
this
was a
point,
bit
we're
for
just
a
doing
little
it.
bit.
We're just doing it on purpose.
yeah.
So there were evidence of them like building.
It wasn't evident. Like there was evidence, but they were saying that, oh no, something else. It's a warehouse. We're building it for
Right.
something.
I mean, that kind of reminds me. There was a video. There's a really famous video, and I highly recommend. Maybe if we can get a link, we'll put it down in the chat. Where a journalist was interviewing like a Chinese official, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't prepared for it because the
That's
reporter,
one of the best things I've seen.
Yeah, it's so great because the reporter just suddenly brings up, what about all these Muslim minority people being taken on trains to re-education camps? And the guy was just like completely denying it. He turned blind. He's like, I can't see anything.
Well,
I
the
can't
first
see
thing he
anything,
did was, where did you get this video from?
Yeah, exactly.
And then he went to deny it.
You can't prove
then
me
he went
wrong if I
blind
can't
and
read.
yeah. Like, where am I? Oh, this isn't
Where'd you
China.
get this video? Oh no! How do you? This could be fake. I mean, this is not
Photoshop,
real.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. I think he
And then
does
he went
say
on.
that.
He went on to say, "I can't see. It's too far." And then the camera zooms right into the crowd. He's like, "Oh, okay."
God damn. It kind of reminds me of that.
Change the
It kind of
script.
reminds me of the whole thing, like, I think the Hong Kong like reporters when they were talking to like the WHO official and was like, yeah, what about like this situation? And he just like completely hung up the call. Like that's what it kind of reminds me of. And that's how you can tell that these people are kind of controlled to have a certain perspective or a certain narrative because they have higher ups that they need to kind of protect. right?
I had a thought that I wanted to pose to you guys as well. Do you think, because obviously, if the countries you think about, like Australia, China, India, um, and America, like they're all linked in terms of trade agreements. Like they have certain agreements, like with different imports, exports, whatever. Um, and you could say that's an effect of globalization. Would you say politics falls under the effects of globalization as well, in terms of like, I'm trying to find the best way to phrase it. Like, because these countries have such close ties to each other,
Mm-hmm.
um, would you say that the ultra nationalistic views are also becoming trending in these countries that they're doing trades with? Like you see with
Oh, like, are you saying like, in order to kind of like decouple themselves from China, countries are becoming more nationalistic in order to kind of break away from their ties to China?
I mean, there's a lot of similarities in terms of like how countries are becoming very
They
ultra
how they
nationalistic.
behave.
You got the MAGA people in America. Like Trump might symbolize something else, but the people
the
are
red
ultra
hats.
nationalistic. Yeah, the red hats. You got like One Nation Party here in Australia, and a couple of other similar parties in Queensland. You got the CCP in China. You got what is it, the Hindutva party in India. They all
BJP. BJP
BJP,
is the
yeah.
ruling party. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got all these parties, these political parties that are like having this resurgence, or maybe just an
Ultra
assertion.
nationalism.
Yeah, ultra nationalistic views, and Muslims are like the lowest hanging fruit, so that's the first people they go for. But do you think this is an effect of like globalization?
I think it's a really important topic, because what's this phenomena of the rise in ultra right, far right nationalism? Where is it coming from? Is it the result of globalization, or are there other forces at work?
Yeah.
And I think it
It's
really
not a
warrants
coincidence.
another topic altogether.
It's not a coincidence.
Yeah, absolutely
I mean,
not. But
a country I missed out on is UK, with how Boris Johnson and
With
his
Brexit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Brexit,
mean,
yeah.
like, what, the Brexit vote was like a huge majority, and like they have like a super majority, I think, like in their what is it, their parliament. I forget how the UK government
I wanted
ask
to
our
pose a
audience,
question for the audience.
question
If
for the
there are
audience.
any countries that you think are similar to the countries that I listed, and if you agree or disagree, or have different viewpoints to like my idea about globalization being a factor of all these ultra nationalistic people coming about in these countries.
Well,
And
yeah.
does our audience want us to do an episode on
Globalization.
the growth of far right and nationalism in general as a global phenomenon?
We had
Is that
a statement, I think, from Ali Qureshi.
Who was also a guest.
He was a guest on our show, episode 3, I think.
Hey, Ali.
So he said, every time the system is failing you, you get both extreme wings rising. Easy answer.
Yeah, I mean, he's completely correct, right? Like, because when because let's say, you have a reigning government, right? And when that government starts to either not do a good job, or it's like, for whatever reason, there's like a resurgence.
Almost creates a vacuum, right?
Yeah, it does. A political vacuum where people start, the opposition starts taking on positions that run counter to the main government, and then their rise in popularity then takes over, and it's a cycle, right? It usually does become a cycle eventually. Like over time, it's a natural cycle, right? Whether people vote for more left-leaning policies, or then right-leaning policies, meeting in the middle, etc. And yeah, like maybe that's part of it too. And speaking of which, I guess that's like a really good play. I guess, do you guys have any final thoughts about the Uyghur Muslims and the things that are happening over there? Maybe something that the general audience might maybe people that I know there's like a documentary that was that you were talking about, Samad. It was like a Vice documentary.
There are plenty, but I want to look for the one that I did watch a while ago, and that was a really good documentary because it showed how the landscape is changing as well as yeah, I think I know what you're laughing at.
Yeah, you know what I'm laughing at?
Yeah, we're all laughing at Ali. We're all laughing at you, mate.
Yeah, so I think I will try to find that documentary because I do want everyone to watch it.
Yeah, I want to watch it. You know what?
Uh,
Vice has some pretty like questionable articles, but they do really good documentaries.
Documentaries, yeah.
There was a couple
Especially
that
their
they do.
their embedded documentaries are amazing.
Yeah,
What's the embedded documentaries?
it's just like a series.
Yeah, so when
okay.
they're actually there's the journalist is embedded with a group of people, and they're kind of
right, like they're like
experiencing
within.
from
Okay,
the
cool,
perspective
cool.
of that group.
Yeah.
So they do some real kind of great documentary.
It's almost
in that.
it's-
One of the things that I really wanted to like talk about was so there's two narratives, right? Like there's of course the narrative that we just spoke about, how we believe that China is systematically conducting a genocide, and it's using, all it has in its hand, all the cards in its hands to prevent it from becoming an accepted situation, right? Like people are denying it, including Muslims, and which I find it to be bizarre to begin with, because this fake, intellectualism is, and looking and thinking that everything is a Western propaganda.
and not just sorry,
yeah.
I'll just add one small thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Continue. It's not just with the Chinese thing, but a lot of people like to have an opposing view just for the sake of having an opposing view.
Yeah, because they want to be different. Yeah,
Contrarians, yeah.
They won't have anything to back it up, but they just like to have that view.
and they often use the same thing that there's no conclusive evidence, and they never state what they refer to as conclusive evidence because
I find that fascinating, right? Because these same people were saying this about the Bosnia genocide, and it's like, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Well, you know what? A decade and a half later, the war criminals were taken to International Criminal Court. And I mean, what punishment did they get? Right, house arrest. But nonetheless, the facts of the case were presented in an international criminal court, and the same thing will happen a decade from now.
Yep, and I think, and then on the other side, we also have people who are trying to speak up, and they're facing.
They're being deplatformed.
Yeah, they're being deplatformed. Like Mr. Ozil.
I mentioned it in a previous episode.
I know another person who he was in the news because he spoke out against China and he was forced to delete his tweets.
Oh, really?
If you watch cricket, you would know who Shahid Afridi is.
Oh.
So he tweeted about China and the genocide, and then I'm pretty sure the government forced him to delete that tweet.
Jeez.
Yeah, within 24 hours.
Wow.
He's a really big icon in Pakistan.
Yeah, even in cricket in general. If you're a cricket fan, like you know who that guy is.
Well, I mean,
for whatever reason, you know him.
I mean, look at the effects that if you talk about anything related to Chinese politics, right? Like the whole thing with the NBA, right? With I forget the coach of the Houston Rockets. He like kind of tweeted
Mike
out like
D'Antoni.
Yeah, he like tweeted out support for like the Hong Kong protesters over there, and immediately that kind of like threw everybody into like a hizzy in the NBA. Like all these people who, again, it seems to be very consistent. All
It's
these
not our problem, bro. It's not our problem.
Yeah, all these people who love Black Lives Matter, like what is it? LeBron James is suddenly like, words have consequences. You can't talk about China, mate.
You're gonna bring up LeBron James.
Yeah. Well, because he's a hack, mate. Like a complete hack.
Yeah, it's
Great player,
hypocritical.
But a complete hack.
Yeah.
But I want to add also, I don't know if you guys heard, but there was an Australian journalist. She's Chinese. I don't know if she's Chinese born, but definitely Chinese background.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
She is being detained in China, but she's Australian, like got Australian citizenship.
Well,
it was making news like in Australia, but like it was just on the mainstream like news sources, so like Channel 7, Channel 9 news, but it didn't really make rounds on social media, which I was surprised by. I don't know if it's to do with, I think it's most likely to do with the Hong Kong protests. I think she spoke out about the Hong Kong protests, but I'm like, why isn't anyone talking about this? Like,
it also could be due to it also could be just due to general Australian Chinese politics at the moment, since Australia and China are kind of like not the best friends at the moment
they're butting
politically,
heads up.
and I think because
Mum
of
and dad are
some-
fighting again.
Yeah. And there has been a lot of recent changes in Chinese security laws which allow them to kind of arrest and detain people over like really arbitrary reasons. And subsequently there is I think a warning, like, obviously, like here in Australia, we're not really traveling overseas for commercial reasons, but there are kind of like, big warnings that, hey, don't go to China at the moment, right? I don't think we'd be very welcome
If
in
anyone
China
has
if we were.
TikTok,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I don't think we should book a
I'm
ticket.
okay. Look, to be fair, I'm okay with that.
To China anytime
Yeah.
soon, bro.
That's true.
We can get our Uyghur food here, mate. We don't need to
Yeah,
go
we
to China.
don't need to go China.
We'll be
They're
catching
right-
the same
right
train
here.
with the blindfold if we go to China.
Yeah, I mean,
And
look,
our viewers
we're-
who have TikTok, if you ever said anything about China, don't go to China.
yeah, don't go to China.
They know,
And-
they
and
know
look,
what you said, mate.
And look, look, and plus, with us anyways, we're all stuck at home anyways, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's true.
of the Corona lockdown, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a good way for us to segue to our next topic, which is about Victoria's kind of state of lockdown. Dan
Yeah.
Andrews recently gave his roadmap
Roadmap. Yeah.
to.
The roadmap to nowhere, right?
Well, I mean, he just gave us just plus 2 weeks, mate. Just
Roadmap
additional
to
2 weeks.
Relax, it's only 2 more
depression
weeks,
and,
okay?
We get one
Only two-
extra hour of curfew.
Mate, if you,
so-
it's not too. Has anyone read the
Yes,
the
I-
roadmap?
Yes, I have.
It is
I,
not
I
2
have,
weeks.
I have.
Yeah.
No, it's far
No,
from
it
2
isn't.
weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
not.
You know what? It seems to be kind of designed to. Oh, if everything works well, we'll be able to have a regular Christmas. That's what
Yeah,
it seems
like
to.
it's basically that. Oh, but guys, if everything works really works out really well, right? It's green lights all the way. Then you might have Christmas, right?
Yeah, maybe
It's
Christmas.
conditional. It's conditional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you all
Um,
behave, then you get Christmas.
All I'll
Yeah.
say is we missed out Eid twice this year, so maybe
There's no-
gotta-
Maybe give him a
Yeah.
taste of what we had to go through.
yeah.
The
I mean, well,
Dano
look, to be-
boys, the Dano boys will look after us.
Yeah.
Okay, don't worry about that.
I mean,
That's what they're doing right now.
I mean,
Alright, so
to be fair, we also did
what-
have.
What's
yeah, sorry,
everyone's
go.
thoughts on this?
Well,
this
we
roadmap?
can go a little bit into like the roadmap initially, right? So
Yeah.
starting I guess from the Sunday, is we're under an additional 2 weeks of stage 4 lockdown restrictions, right?
With
So
slight changes.
yeah,
One
well,
change.
as from the 13th of September, a lot of it's mostly the same. You can be like 5 kilometers from your house. You can only leave for shopping, exercise,
reasons, yeah.
caregiving, and work. And the curfew, right, lifted it's going from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Wow, incredible. Dan Andrews giving us that extra hour to just
Wow,
like
I get
you know,
an
Sahal-
extra hour
Sahal
of
says-
outdoor freedom.
60 minutes.
Sahal
60
says he's
minutes.
basically doing the old inshallah will come out of lockdown. I agree.
classic, mate. There's also you're allowed to have one additional visitor if you live alone or are a single, parent, with with
A
children
child
under 18.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
apparently,
Fatima just
apparently the virus knows your age. It checks your ID and you're like, oh, you're over 18. Okay, I'll attack
Wow,
you now.
certain adult education and kind of certain other education sectors
Yeah.
will be allowed to be reopened.
They're saying that
work,
prepping
hospitality,
PCE students.
So this is in 2 weeks though, right? Not
Yeah.
not now.
Yeah.
Yeah. yeah.
Right now.
And,
Yeah, as
and
in-
sorry, that's contingent on a number of things though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
So-
contingent that
Sure is.
that the
but this-
No, I think
no,
that- I
not
think the
this
first-
one. No, this
the
this
one-
is
yeah,
this starts
the one
September
that's-
13th.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
this
one
is
that's
Sep- okay.
September 13th.
Yeah. So
it's
so
set.
the next stage.
This is step
so
one.
This is,
Yeah.
yeah. So the next stage. This is the one that's very conditional, right? So I'll say the condition. So starting from this September 28th, if cases reach 30 to 50 cases over 14 days, right? We still get that 5 kilometers. You can't go 6 kilometers. You can't, go 10 kilometers.
Oh.
It's 5 kilometers. We're keeping
Yeah.
those kilometers right there, mate. Same 4 reasons. Outdoor gathering of 5 people, and you're allowed to have from 2 different households. So that's the thing. early education reopens. I think there's like a few stuff about like real estate. Like I don't know, like buying houses is a bit risky at the moment, right? Like
yeah, it's like they have to do outdoor auctions. They can't.
I think childcare opens up as well on the 13th of September.
Not on the 13th. It's on the 28th.
On the 28th. Yeah.
So I think that's a big bonus.
Numbers,
like opening up childcare is actually very, very helpful for households where both parents are working, because right now households where mum and dad are both trying to work and trying to look after a 3-year-old, that could be very, very challenging.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We have phased return of school learning from prep to grade 2, VC and VCAL. So those are kind of the ones that are first kind of coming into the news, like, reopened schools. Hospitality and retail have like kind of reopened, but there's still restrictions, and certain workplaces reopen. So, and again, it's conditional of if we maintain a 30 to 50 cases over 14 days. So it's 2 weeks.
I like how he's like, 30 to 50, right? It's like...
ballpark, mate.
Ballpark. I mean, it's like, why doesn't he just say the maximum per, over the last 14 days?
It is weird that there is a plus minus, right?
I don't know what the point of that is. To say the maximum we're going to tolerate is, because now I think he's allowing himself a get out of jail, which is if it's 35, maybe we will unlock it still. Maybe
it's like what I said our last coronavirus episode. He's just freestyling at this point. Like
yeah. He's just MacGyver. He's like, oh yeah, we'll just figure out.
Take that from France. Take this from Spain.
Well, I mean,
shake it up.
Well, I mean, they completely screwed it up back in June in terms of how to reopen.
I think this roadmap should have existed the first lockdown we had.
Yes, correct. When they were trying to reopen everything again during June, like late June, they should have at least tried to implement a structure like this.
I think one thing, this is what I constantly see. Sorry, Adam, to cut you off.
No, by all means, please.
So Fatima says Italy had 35.5k deaths and only 58 lockdown days. Is that a good thing? Is that something to be proud of? Like, be honest to yourself. Are you saying that you're okay with a 58-day lockdown so you can have 36k deaths?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I think
and you have to understand how the healthcare system works too. So you can't just throw numbers and not look at the bigger picture.
Their lockdowns weren't normal lockdowns. Their lockdowns were actually like...
They were hard lockdowns. They were
because look how quickly the virus spread and how badly the...
You had people in Italy dying like 700s by the day.
Yeah, and we didn't have those days because it spread differently over here. And you also have to understand that there's more to it. So there's a political side to it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Victoria, they didn't want to pin like Dan Andrews is trying to minimize, the blame that he's gonna get, when it comes to spread of the virus itself. So he doesn't want Victorians going into other states, and then causing a second wave. So that also comes into play. So you can't just write things off and just say, oh, okay. So,
the other thing about Italy is that that in the regions where that the death toll was the highest, they had high density housing.
It's North Italy, right? That's where they had like most of their deaths. And I think, and look, if you look at the death rate in Italy, it's like 11% of people who are infected with coronavirus in Italy died, right? Whereas over here currently, I think we're at just over 2%.
Just over.
Prior to, like, during our first lockdown, the death rate was like under 0.1.
Yeah. It was really,
we
had cases like, I think the
numbers,
the biggest mess up was
the numbers right now are so high in terms of deaths is primarily because of the aged care facilities.
And I want to kind of sorry. No, Samad, sorry. I just want to address one thing that Fatima said, because she asked, China had 4,000 deaths. That's fake. That's fake
news.
That's a lie.
Come on, man.
Yeah, that's 100% a lie.
That's fake news,
a fabrication from the Chinese propaganda.
They wouldn't build a hospital in 14 days for 4K deaths.
Okay. So here's the thing, right? India has, I think, 1 point something billion people, and China has more people in their country, and India has more deaths in their country than China. Right?
Yeah, well, I don't know why anyone would use any numbers coming out of China. I think we just discount altogether.
But that's the thing, right? Like you can't blame it because that's the official number, right? But people, you know, we'll just take him at their word, right? So that's just one kind of clarification that I
If
wanted
there's
to put. You
anything that
can't.
we've established in the first half of this show is that you can't take China for their word.
Oh, well, come on. We love China. Look, I got China right here, mate.
And,
Look at
and
this.
concentration camps. They're the two
But-
things we've very clearly established.
There's two questions, and I'd like to answer them both together from my perspective. So Ali asked, you guys have been dissing Andrews the entire time. I'm confused. And Fatima saying Victoria's lockdown laws is exaggerated. So for the first part, look, you can agree with Dan Andrews and at the same time criticize things that he's done. Because there's some aspects he has, you know, stuffed up completely.
Yes,
and lost
correct.
the people. And then there are some parts that he's actually taking steps to do, because it's easy.
Eventually, yes.
It's easy to be in this spot and be like, oh yeah, he's a shit cunt, he's this and that. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word. It's
Too late now.
It's easy. Yeah,
Too late
it came
now.
out. It came out. Sorry,
listen to that part.
But yeah, like, you know, it's easy to sit here and be like, he's this and that and that. But like in any other case, like, what would you do? Like, obviously, there are leaders who would have like completely different view. I feel like he's going to get hate either way, right?
Oh, absolutely.
If he opens everything up, there are going to be you know, and Melbourne is so divisive right now that there's no minority anymore. It's both majorities. They're two different sides.
It's almost like a split now. It's like a
It's only divisive because they screwed up in the first place,
yeah.
right? Like,
I mean, obviously,
if this was handled in an appropriate way, like other countries like South Korea or Taiwan, it wouldn't have the same kind of effect.
Even we don't even need to go that far. Like, all right, so same country,
or New Zealand, yes, sure, or New Zealand.
Same country. Different states and
same super contribution.
You know, and why is it that Victoria has had not only, you know, one flare up? So if you think about what was it, the hotel quarantine debacle, then you had the housing, the elderly, the aged care facility debacle. It's been one after another, and the other states have not had this. So, what is different about Victoria? Either
Sydney
Victorians
had
are completely,
Ruby.
oblivious, and or Victorians
I feel like
are
it's
just
been a
not
very
following
reactive.
the law, or the policy making of the Andrews government has failed. Because let's be honest, like I supported Andrews, and I think he's doing the best he can, but to me, it feels like he's making easy decisions, not the difficult ones. It's easy to say, you know what, we're just going to shut down the economy and keep everyone locked down. That's easy to say, right? Yeah. It's difficult to say, I'm going to take a very calculated risk, and I'm going to say the people that are high risk individuals, they need to be protected, and we're going to spend as much money to keep them safe. But everyone else, let's safely try and get people back to to business.
And I do understand the sentiments people have about Dan Andrews. Not the whole dictator Dan. I don't agree with that whole thing. But like, I do.
To be fair, it's great alliteration. Like, I will give credit where credit's due. It's great alliteration.
Yeah, with all this hatred, you know, they can come up with so many different things. But like, yeah, okay, I do sympathize with people who are on the, like, there's not much we can do. Like, okay, yeah, fair enough. You know, we're all in this situation together. It's not like one person suffering more than others, except for obviously.
I'm suffering way more than you, mate. You don't know anything about my struggle, mate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's something that hasn't been talked about enough by the government or by, you know, news agencies and that is the depression rates and people, you know, committing suicide.
Are you saying that the Dan Andrews government isn't looking at the situation holistically, and they're just looking at as one part of the data and not other parts of data?
Oh, no way, mate. No way. I actually wanted to mention a comment that was said earlier by
Ali's comment.
You know, Hibak's comment. My friend in Peru had a gun pointed at her when she was trying to go home during lockdown. So it's crazy. Everywhere's feeling tense at the moment because of the situation that coronavirus has placed. And the thing is, like, if you look at Victoria in particular, again, we went into lockdown before, right? Yeah. Like this was like back in March, right? We went into lockdown back in March. It was like 2 months or something till the end of June. people were complying. People weren't
Yeah.
having an issue. And then all the resurgences happened, and then they put additional restrictions, and that's what's causing a lot of frustration. Right?
And I
Because
think
people
a lot
are
of that
seeing.
is yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Go,
no,
Simon.
I was just adding to what you were saying. People, I think the reason why people are reacting in the way they are, is because it wasn't entirely, it wasn't people's fault, right? Like it was, a big.
I mean, it was people's fault, but like, as in,
But-
it was not
but-
the
Yeah, but it has
majority
like,
of people.
Look,
were
yeah, I
following-
mean, like it spread through people, but when it comes to using the right channels and using the right resources,
and
the Victorian government,
policies.
the correct policies and procedures, Victorian government failed. And if you look into, what happened with hotel
Absolutely.
quarantine,
Yeah,
that's the
that
reason
was-
why
yeah.
why we're here right now and why we're all stuck
That's not the
inside.
only reason, though.
I mean, look, it's one of the main reasons,
the
right?
reasons.
Yeah, one of the main reasons. But in saying that, we still have people who are holding, secret parties.
Yeah,
they're having their weddings and their engagement parties and birthday parties. So there has to be some level of accountability. You can't just put all the blame
Everything
on
on
Yeah,
the
gang.
government,
because here's the thing.
And this has been going
give
on
people-
before even we kicked into this lockdown, right? Like this has been happening even
Yeah.
throughout
I mean,
the first lockdown.
one of the biggest reasons why this strict lockdown had to happen was because people didn't stick to that 20 family member limit that we
no,
had.
they did.
50,
March,
60
yeah.
people, yeah.
And then like that, increased the community transmissions. And then like, there was all the Al-Taqwa news. They
Yep, the
made the
stuff,
news
Al-Taqwa,
once
yep.
again, like the 50th time. And all this talk about, it was Al-Taqwa, this and that. Yeah, okay, maybe. But then,
Maybe they should
no one
understand
takes
their own
yeah.
name, yeah. Al-Taqwa, yeah.
But but like what I'm trying to say is that, I was reiterating what Simon is saying, that it hasn't just been one case. Like you look at Sydney, they had that Ruby, the cruise, and then that's like the only major sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I think
That's
I can
been reason for
I can give the
transmission.
governments, the state governments, I can afford them one failure, but
Mhm.
when there's
One
a state,
failure. Ooh.
one
Yeah.
failure, like New
Only
South
one.
Wales
One
government had one
big
failure. But if there's a cascading set of like failure after failure, then I think we need to find a common denominator.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that denominator?
And
Simon?
honestly-
can you tell me?
But
Can you tell me a little
one
bit more
thing-
about the denominator?
Do I
One thing that
should I
disappoints me-
do I need to be more overt than I've already been?
One thing that really disappoints me about Melburnians right now, and I sent this to the guys as well in the group chat, but how selfish people how selfish people have become, like Melburnians in general. Like they're like, oh, it doesn't matter, they were gonna die anyways. Like they didn't have to if you guys followed the rules. Like because
Yeah,
there was a
the
stat
reason why
showing
they
how many
fix your-
people.
yeah,
There's
could be
a stat
because of your
showing.
thing.
Yeah, and it was like it was a clip in the newspaper, like little on the side, like the age ranges like between 50 and 60, 70, 80, 90.
I think we've also spoken about those statistics before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
and I'm
we
like,
have,
and people just taking it as, it's
Only
just,
those
it's just-
people
yeah,
are
it's
going to
just-
be affected.
It's just
yeah.
old people that are dying. It's like they're still people, man. They're not a statistic.
Well, also, it's not just old people. It's also going to be like immunocompromised people.
Yeah, exactly.
We're
yeah.
kind of lucky at the moment that like kids aren't really showing much of
Affected,
like
yeah.
an issue with it, but that doesn't change the fact that they could be potential asymptomatic spreaders, which is also a big concern about like them kind of reopening schools, because they could
Yeah.
be a potential kind of source for spreading it and then taking it back to their households and infecting people who are potentially compromised. And when I mean immunocompromised, is like people who have
Respiratory
immune
and,
issues, or
immune
like
compromised,
HIV.
yeah.
They're kind of big targets of things like coronavirus, because again, it's something that's evolving in terms of the science that we're finding out about how it affects us. It's not just a respiratory issue. It has potential in
Yeah,
damaging
it's
like your heart,
damaged
your
other
lungs,
livers,
the brain.
people.
There's all
Nerve
this stuff
damage,
coming
yeah.
out. There's all this stuff coming out, and we're only just
And it'll
that's like
continue to
another-
come out
I
as
think-
well.
Yeah, I think that's
and the
another
and the
point.
long-term effects of
Yeah.
it. So that's
All these-
my
all these
that's my one.
pseudoscientists that are coming out right now, and
People who didn't know.
everyone who's a microbiologist right now during this
Yeah.
lockdown got like a degree in 6 months, coming out and
Yeah,
talking
sure.
about this and that. Like They don't even know.
HCQ.
With
HCQ.
God, don't start.
Well, you see,
No,
and
but like,
this is the thing.
but-
You see, I've said it again and again. Like I remember talking to Simon like way back about hydroxychloroquine.
in July last
and
year.
yeah, like in July last year. and about how like
Man, even we had a chat
when
when
we
we were
were-
driving up
when-
to
yeah.
Nihal's place. We had
Yeah,
a
and-
longest
yeah,
conversation.
and it's so crazy that like people are just like making science like in particular like very political at this stage when
Yeah.
it's just a matter of hey, like if hydroxychloroquine works, let's test it out and let's figure it out. It doesn't have to be, it might not be like this panacea which like cures your disease, gives you like 7 inches of height or whatever, or it's not a something that's going to kill you and your family if you intake it, right? It's just like something that we just have to test and see if it's an effective antiviral drug measure, right? Same thing with vaccines. It's the same thing with vaccines. Like there's people on one side who are like, oh, they've already got a vaccine but they're not giving it to us, or the vaccines are going to be microchipping us and
bro.
and following
Pandemic.
us, like like these kind of
the government planned to stuff our economy up for like the next 5 years on purpose. Yeah, okay.
I'm sure.
yeah.
Exactly.
But
Ali said people who finished VCAL become prime ministers.
Oh, okay. Is that true?
But what I was trying to say with my point earlier is like, you look at the situation in New Zealand, right? I don't know if they're still in their second lockdown right now, because they got out of lockdown, and then there's certain places that got locked down again because there were numbers starting to show after the 14 days case free. But they have like,
It was actually in New Zealand. It was 102 days of zero
Yeah.
cases, and then they had an outbreak.
and
then they went back into
their
lockdown. Sorry,
But
go ahead.
like with that strand of COVID that is resurging in New Zealand, they've actually found that it's a different strand to what like Australia and other countries are facing. So this virus is mutating, right? It's not something.
To be fair, I'll put a bit of a caveat on that. Like viruses mutating and evolving is completely normal.
It's a normal thing, but that's what I'm saying. Like this because you're biologist.
Because you actually have a degree in it.
Yeah,
and,
you
and
actually
not
have a
the
degree in it.
yeah, not a diploma from the School of Hard Knocks.
5G, mate.
Yeah.
5G.
The
mate.
little science that I've done like throughout my education, uni and high school is like I know that how vaccines work and how viruses work, right? So yeah.
You're an authority, mate. You should talk about it.
Yeah. Are you one of the
I'm one of those guys that got a degree in 6 months as well.
You did.
But
You did a 4-credit course in
I
biology.
did a
was
biology.
it online? Was it online too?
I did a biology course on Skillshare.
Yeah, on Udemy, mate.
But
You didn't.
the
Yeah, no.
the point that I'm
actually,
trying to make is
Yeah.
like the virus is always mutating, so people making assumptions that there's already a cure, HCQ will cure everything. Oh, it's just a common flu. Like people die from flus as well. Like all these people saying all this shit. Like, have you picked up a biology book in your life?
Yeah. Look, I agree with what you're saying, Tech. I want to kind of just pivot back to the things.
By the way,
the
we're not trying to-
roadmap, the
we're not trying to
lockdown
make-
roadmap.
By the way, we're not trying to make anyone feel like stupid by saying that just because you haven't studied biology, you're not able to comment on it.
yeah.
What we're trying to say is,
I'm definitely.
if you are going to comment on it, have
it's good
like,
to
factual
understand. It's good to
standpoint. Have a platform where
Yeah.
you know that what you're saying is correct.
Yeah, I'll
So
definitely say that.
before
Like,
you form a concrete opinion
yeah.
on these things, of course, first thing is to have an open mind, and then secondly, maybe go in with the mindset of learning new things, maybe figuring out how these things work, how the virus works. If you want, I can even link you a video on how coronavirus works, so you can understand how it operates inside your body.
Yeah, I was gonna say like maybe over time, like when we get like a lot better with like the functioning of the shows, like we'll kind of put up like articles for everybody to read, because we say a lot of stuff but we don't have.
I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it.
Yeah. But I mean like on the screen, so people, because people don't want to click on links. They just want to see our faces.
Yeah.
There was a
while we
question
talk and read
earlier.
articles, mate. Right. So and that's what I'm saying. Like even the stuff that we say, like go look it up and do
Fact
your
check
own
us.
kind of,
You can call us out if we're wrong. Feel free
Yeah.
to call us out.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I'm wrong, like, yeah, show me, and I'm happy to admit
Yeah.
that like I'm wrong on like a particular issue or
There
something.
was a question asked. Hibak asked, "Why do you think Victoria has messed up in comparison to other states?" We've already kind of mentioned that a bit before about how we've had multiple accounts where
And I
there's an
think
outbreak.
even things like contract the contact tracing it's
Yeah,
absolutely horrendous
it's
compared
dog
in
shit.
comparison. Yeah, I think
Sorry, Yasin, if you're listening.
yeah, I think they revealed the numbers of the officers who are assigned, to
Yeah.
contact trace, and it was nothing close to what New South Wales was doing, even during the non-peak moments of the spread of coronavirus in New South Wales. So even
Mhm.
during the time when they had a few cases, there were more people working in New South Wales than there were in Victoria, which just doesn't make any sense because we have so many mystery cases, and until we get to the bottom of them, we don't know where they're coming from, and
There's so
I,
many community transmission numbers that go unaccounted
yeah.
for.
Mhm. And look, you know what? I know Simon wants us to pivot back to the lockdown, but I just want to mention one thing. Rumaya in the chat said, "Hurry up and make a vaccine, Adam." Look, there's only so much one man can do, but I do actually have some good news. There was a study that came out that looked at 18,000 SARS samples, SARS-CoV-2. That's the kind of coronavirus that we're kind of dealing with from about 27,000 patients, and they found that there was minimal genetic diversity between these sequences since December 2019. And what
that's
that
very good
essentially,
news.
yeah, that's very good news because it essentially means that a lot of the ways that we're going to be trying to target the virus is going to probably be universal across the virus itself, right? What is kind of worrying,
So
and
maybe what you're suggesting is maybe Russia's virus vaccine might work
Sputnik
on us as
5.
well.
maybe it depends. Again, I'm putting my money on the Chad vaccine,
Chad.
which is being made in Oxford. Yes, it
Oxford.
is
Yeah,
called
Chad. Yeah,
Chad, CH for chimpanzine, AD for adenovirus. It's the mechanism that that the vaccine uses. But yeah, like there is other concerns about the virus not really changing because one of the big kind of concerns where this COVID-19 is very infectious for humans, right? Not even something like the original SARS was as infectious. It's
Yeah.
already got like this innate kind of affinity towards humans, and that's what was really kind of scary about this initially. Sorry, Tuck, as you were saying.
Yeah. So we got some opposing views happening in the chat, and I
Oh,
want to
yep.
see what you guys think about it. So Fatima is saying that holistic wellness over only physical health, and Ali
I
Qureshi is saying that holistic wellness is predict pre sorry
predicated.
predictated. Yeah,
Yeah,
Predicated.
predicated. Why can't I read that word? Predicated on physical health.
It's part of It's
Yeah, I
not
mean,
necessarily.
partially.
I
it's
mean, I think
Uh,
we should take it a step further.
d-
I
d-
think
d-
it's not just well-being and physical health. I think it's again like most problems. There's multiple ways that we need to solve for it, and we need to look at mental health, physical health. We need to look at the economy. We need to look at
Financial stability of
A lot
yeah
of
the livelihoods that are being that are being lost,
Yeah.
and we
Yep.
need to make a collective. I mean, I think the scale should weigh in favor of saving lives, obviously,
That's
but
should be a
it needs to be
priority, yeah.
it needs to be a more balanced scale, obviously weighed more heavily on saving lives.
Yep.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I feel like it's Dan Andrews keeps talking about he says and again this is the way he says it. I don't have the luxury of ignoring the science and the data. Well, I'd like to see. I'd
Well,
like
that's
to.
what he did first lockdown.
yeah.
Well, I think
I mean, yeah, you ignore it the first time around, and now you have data. But we all have the same data, so I'd like to know what is informing these new lockdown
Well,
the roadmap.
did you guys hear
speaking-
about the 500 plus doctors who wanted to reach out to Dan Andrews about the severe, like the extreme nature of these the lockdown rules, because they're getting more patients coming in complaining about their deteriorating mental health, even when it comes to the violence, between
domestic
family members.
violence.
Yeah,
Domestic
domestic
violence.
violence.
Yeah, domestic
Um,
violence has gone
abuse,
up in like every
yeah.
country.
A
Yeah.
lot of children as well who
Depression.
can't express what they're feeling right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
They're locked inside the house and they can't.
Oh,
they
wait,
can't
you're
express what
telling
they're
me
feeling.
not just giving him video games and TV, letting him watch it, have them develop who they are? That doesn't help. Weird.
The WHO will say they have a video game addiction again.
No, dude, what the UN has already classified video game addiction as a mental health
Won't they just become mass shooters though if they just play video games?
Yeah,
all
if they
the
play
time?
video games,
yeah.
play enough Doom, mate.
According to what some people
Warzone, bro. It's Warzone. It's
Oh
all
yeah, true. It's Warzone.
Yeah, it's Warzone.
Actually, so to kind of go to the next step, on the kind of roadmap, Dan Andrews' mega roadmap out of
Yep.
lockdown, right? So starting October 25th, right? And the condition for this one is if there are fewer than 5 daily cases and 5 mystery cases. And now mystery cases mystery cases refer to unknown community origins. That's what it essentially means. So, that's the kind of framework. And what we get is no more curfew. No more curfews. We're out and about. We're wild now.
Do
Out of that
whatever.
9 p.m. Out of that 9 p.m. curfew, and there's no curfew anymore. So bizarre. Like it just, I don't know.
New South
I
Wales
feel-
have had like 5 daily cases for a long time. I mean, what this sounds like to me is that forget it, guys. We're not opening anything up very soon. So
Yeah,
for the next
anytime
two,
soon.
Get used
for the
to
next
it.
2
I
months,
think putting dates-
nothing's changing.
I think Dan Andrews putting dates is like sort of supposed to be to reassure people.
us, yes.
Yeah, like, oh, don't worry, like you just put a circle on your calendar. and
Calendar,
that's-
free
Yeah,
from
and
the
then-
house.
Yeah, and then you'll
And-
be free. So I understand Fatima's sentiments about her saying that she feels like there's no light at the end
Yeah,
of the tunnel. She said it earlier.
well, that's the thing. As we go down this list, it will be something that's going to be happening throughout the entire year. It's not like we're going to, unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's not like we're going to be leaving the house very commonly within the next week, right?
And the reality is, even if we are able to get down to Dan's threshold, right, of 5 mystery cases a day or less, if we're able to get that to that arbitrary threshold, that what happens when we reopen according to his plan, and then we get to 6 cases? Do we go back into lockdown?
Well, we'll just put it in the mystery cases.
Oh, he's not going to deal. He's not going to deal with that in his roadmap.
He's
Oh.
like,
who
he sees,
knows, mate.
6th case, just rip up.
Nah, rip it up, mate. We
No,
gotta-
it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Go back
Um,
inside. Go back
But can I make a prediction?
Of course, go ahead.
I feel like with everything going on, like especially with the coronavirus, I
Mhm.
feel like it's going to come and go in waves. It's going to be something that's sort of seasonal.
Yep. For I think at
From
least
the
until we
numbers and from-
until we get a vaccine.
Until we
there's a
until we get a
Yeah,
vaccine.
until there's a
Yeah.
vaccine.
Or
If there's a
until there's
vaccine.
It's not
un-
as simple as just get the vaccine and it'll be seasonal.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
let
yeah.
me ask, of the group of our
You still got
panelists, how many of
anti-vax
you-
people.
How many of you will actually take the vaccine when it comes out?
Not straight away. No.
Yeah,
No chance.
I'd look
Yeah,
into
alright.
it before.
So, I think-
yeah. And that's the thing. With everything that's kind of happening, especially when it comes to how people are gonna, even when things like reopen up, it's not like you're gonna be leaving the country, right? Like
Yeah.
people aren't gonna be, leaving the country anytime soon. We're all on a big kind of international lockdown in Australia. Like that's the kind of good thing about living on a giant island, right? Island, continent. What else are we?
you wanna
We're a bunch of other stuff as well. It's pretty funny.
Country.
Yeah, country, whatever it may be. Just an additional, just kind of clarification of other stuff that is affected after October 25th. 10 people are allowed to gather outside. 5 people are allowed to visit from a second household, so not from multiple, just a second household.
Right.
Retail will reopen, including hairdressing, but beauty parlors and personal care will remain shut. So sorry, girls, you can't get your nails did. Just saying.
I mean, a lot of people are doing it from home, but that's beside the
Well,
point.
yeah, I mean that's a good. Again, it's a good time to kind of learn to
Skills,
do
yeah.
something practical, right?
Like start a
let's-
podcast.
Like start a podcast, exactly.
I think there's
Interstate.
enough podcasts. No more podcasts.
Yeah, no one started
That's
podcasts. That's it.
guys.
Yeah, gyms will reopen allegedly during this time as well.
Allegedly.
What
So what time are we talking about?
After October 25th.
2050. Okay.
I don't trust people at gyms to follow guidelines.
No, neither. The moment my gym reopens, I'm putting my gym membership on hold. That's what I've been doing this entire time. It happened during June as well. Like earlier I put my gym membership on hold, and then when it reopened again during June, I called him immediately and I was like, I'd like to use my my pause, like, I get like 3 months that I can freeze my membership for, and I'm like, I'd like to freeze my account, and then next couple of weeks we're going back into lockdown anyway, so so it kind of worked out.
Let's reopen gyms, which is a cesspool of bacteria and germs. But that's completely safe, guys.
Hey,
I
miss going to the gym.
I don't know how they'd even do it. It's like, would you? And to be fair, like, later down the line, I'll go through. They might have to do something like a limited kind of intake for people coming out. So you have to like book yourself at the gym. But then how does that work for people who want to like go to the gym, right? And they go regularly. Like,
mate, if you go to the gym and you don't wipe down with alcohol wipes, and you get COVID, then it's really your fault, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess, right?
You should know better.
Now,
you shouldn't have licked your fingers after you went to the gym.
Also in this phase, a lot of like kind of outdoor sports will be reopened as well. 3rd grade and 10th grade students can go back.
School people.
I
love that. I'm going to use that. School people. What are they called? Those little people that go to school. What are they?
Those damn school people.
They're tiny little people, but they go to school.
What do you call
between
them
the hours
when
of
they're
like
not
9 a.m. and 3 p.m.?
What do you call them when they're not in school anymore?
Non-school
people.
Non-school people. No. Are you kidding me? They're non-school people.
We have to classify them somehow.
So that's kind of like the major things out of the October 25th kind of measures. Now, November 23rd is if we have.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Ali's just said alcohol is a haram.
Alcohol is.
No better than that.
Yeah, mate. I mean, Ali.
Just say Bismillah.
Don't drink alcohol wipes. Don't do it.
Yeah.
I know there's you might have an urge to want to do that, but
don't do it for shots. Yeah, don't squeeze out the alcohol.
Bro, I know Ali's doing all kinds of not haram things, bro. I've seen him, bro. I've seen him.
Harambe.
Did ya?
Yeah.
Now the next.
Communism is haram. He's not. Why is he?
There's no communism in Islam, bro. I don't know why you.
There's no ism in.
Why is he stopping at alcohol, bro?
So November 23rd is predicated on no new cases for 2 weeks. So it's not like 1 week. It's not like 1 week, 1 day. It's 2 weeks that we have to have no cases for this measure, which is 50 people are allowed to gather outside. 20 people are allowed to gather in a home. Adult education are allowed to reopen, so going back to university and stuff. People are still expected to work from home if they can. 50 seated diners allowed to so restaurants and stuff. Weddings can have 50 people.
When's this happening?
November 23rd. Or what?
Or 2 weeks of.
Sorry, for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So not November. Then I mean,
so
really doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, from the October period, if for that 2 weeks, so after October 25th, like if we're kind of keeping on that track.
I want to see the data that
because the way they phrased it is it's whichever is the latest of the two. So either the date or if we get to that arbitrary number. Of either 5 mystery cases or the 30 to 50 mystery cases.
Well, I mean, if you look at some of this, right? Like for example, it's like we've gone from like allowing like 10 people to gather outside. Oh, now it's 50. Now we're allowing 50 people, right? It's like it's kind of bizarre. Like I get why, because it's like at that stage it's like 0 cases.
Increments.
Yeah, but it's not really incremental when you go from allowing 10 to gather outdoors to 50.
That's what I'm saying. It's it's not incremental. It's just straight.
In 2 weeks, you can have 40 more people around.
Yeah, but you will be able to go to beauty parlors at this stage, so rejoice.
I mean, if you're going to go to the gym, you might as well go to the beauty parlor.
Simon can get his pedicure and his manicure done.
Even stuff like this. Events will have density limits. Large events will be assessed on an individual basis based on epidemiology of the day. Like it's
Of
it's
the
crazy.
day.
even mean?
It's crazy. I don't even know how they're gonna even do that.
Yeah,
Like,
you
are they
set
gonna
a
test? Are they
concert,
gonna
like,
look at?
we're not-
Oh, we got like 10
like,
cases today, and then we're gonna allow like only 10 people into this concert
Like
or something.
at
Like,
five,
Can you imagine that?
At 5
but
o'clock,
that's
you
what it-
find out if you're going to a concert or not. The government
Yeah.
come out and tell you if you can
yeah,
go out.
I mean, like, but I mean, realistically, that's what it would have to be because, like, for example, museums and galleries will open, but will be heavily restricted with patron caps. Like, it makes sense, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, only 100 people will be able to go to the
Within a venue,
museum, to see like Bach today, right? Like,
Yeah.
but it's gonna lead to a huge backlog and of people who want to come in. Like, if you're only letting 1,000 people, people have to book like 10 years in advance to go see a painting.
Yeah.
Like,
something,
yeah.
something, Juice WRLD concert.
Not right.
Yeah.
Not right. Not right.
Well, if you catch the virus, you have a chance of experiencing
now-
that.
You
Man.
can meet him in person. Meet and greet.
Now the final stage is what's referred to as COVID normal, right? Which is if no new cases for 28 days, no new active cases, no outbreaks in other states and territory of concerns in other states and territory for 2 weeks. So 2 weeks after that period, from November 23rd, if we kind of keep that momentum going, kind of sets it up to everything being normal by December 21st, which is a couple of days between, which is why I was saying it's kind of around,
Heading
for
towards
everyone having that
Christmas,
perfect
yeah.
Christmas, mate.
Yeah.
Christmas.
I mean, the whole
miracle.
plan is based on to try and get people to
celebrate.
Not be
celebrate
pissed off
Christmas.
enough.
Yeah.
Not be pissed
And
off
to
and have
enjoy
their
their holidays
Christmas.
as well.
Not to.
right.
I think it's focused on not people not having a coup against Daniel Andrews around the Christmas time.
Yeah, because bro, if he cancelled Christmas, man, like
He's cancelled, man.
he's a Grinch.
He's
pretty much a
cancelled.
Grinch,
Yeah,
bro.
he's people will force him out of his office.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
just
And
JFK.
to be fair, this is purely on the basis of things going well, starting like next week.
You're so negative, mate. Why?
So even
you're,
if
your
we
glass half empty, Adam.
Am I? Because the thing is, if we're delayed by like 5 days, we miss Christmas. We miss Christmas, mate.
Andrews has got this covered. Can't you? You just look at how well he's handled the situation. We'll be fine, guys.
So, what do you guys think about the protest? There's going to be one
Yeah.
the coming weekend. There was one last weekend, which got really, really violent.
I feel
People
like
got
we
really
talk-
aggressive.
I think
And we
they
did, but
arrested-
we
I
didn't
think-
get to speak
well,
about
acco-
it after it happened. So
I think that from the official reports they said that only one incident of like violence happened, and that was like out of like the 15 people who got arrested. So yeah, like it's so bizarre, right? Like they're finally cracking down on protests. Like yeah, about time is all I can say, right? They should have been doing it back in late June or whatever, right?
a
Because
team
it's
of
not like the
Queensland
virus.
residents don't
Yeah,
care.
it's not like the virus got less deadly, right? The virus hasn't changed. I literally mentioned before that the virus hasn't changed genetically that significantly from the beginning, back in December, I believe.
Well, yeah.
And now we're cracking down on protests. At least we're doing something. But yeah, like
I mean, if they didn't, people wouldn't stay indoors, man. Simple as that. Like, if they let this one like get away with it, people would not stay indoors because they'll say, okay, clearly, because the whole point of that protest was, get freedom from this lockdown. So if there was no resistance from the police,
you know
it
what?
would definitely be like absolutely. It would just be everyone would be out and about. Like, okay,
it's prime time for people to buy property in non-Victorian states. That's the thing. just buy a house somewhere else, mate. Go to Queensland. All these Queensland protesters, they just want Victorians to come there and buy their houses, mate.
They're trying to drive up Queensland property prices.
what are they trying to achieve by doing a
Queensland.
protest, man? No one's
Queensland.
going to listen to them. Yeah. It's like no one's going to care. I mean, if we don't care about the Victorians, the Victorians don't care. Yeah.
People who are dying in Victoria, but they care about what Queensland think about it. Or Queensland, they can worry about themselves, man. Like,
yeah, again,
okay, thanks for showing empathy, but like, it's not gonna do anything for us. It's not gonna make Corona go away.
Yeah, look, again, it's all a matter of kind of not selectively enforcing, kind of measures based on arbitrary means. And this is a problem from the Dan Andrews government of not kind of cracking down on protests when they initially happened. Because now all these people who are like, oh, what about our freedoms? What about this? Right? They'll point at, oh, well, they let all the Extinction Rebellion people protest back in June. They let the Black Lives Matter people, protest back in June, right? Like that's what they're going to point to, and they have a reasonable right to be like, yeah, why didn't the government crack down on those protests, right? Yeah. That's fundamentally it.
So Ali says, sets a bad precedent to take away from people's right to protest, even though they are wrong on substance right now. Then there is arbitrary line for them to shut down protests for what they want.
Yeah. But this is
something about a
pandemic. I don't know what to say. Like,
this is not a political issue. This is health related, not just your health, but other people as well.
Like, how outrageous.
You can make the same argument that why have we had our freedoms revoked, right? We should be entitled to our freedoms. No, this is a pandemic. We have a social contract that when things like this happen, that we understand that some of our liberties and our freedoms will be taken. The same, and that includes being able to protest.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing.
They're stopping education activities.
And you have to.
We're not talking about New South Wales. We're talking about Victoria right now. So let's stick to the topic itself. Like, let's not go into a different topic altogether.
Oh, can't go easy on Ali. What is it? I like that. Ali's made a comment around revolution.
Revolution.
Yeah. He's been about
against Dan Andrews. I thought he liked Dan Andrews.
Yeah, I thought you liked Dan. You want to do a coup d'etat on Dan?
Coup d'etat. Oh, no way, mate. I can't take out Dictator Dan, mate. By the way, like I'm saying, Dictator Dan, great alliteration. I can't be mad at the people who say
coming up with it. Yeah.
If we were to kind of accommodate to what Ali was trying to say about the stopping education activists in New South Wales, let's say there's education activists in Victoria right now, protesting for.
They can go to New South Wales and protest.
Wait, activists protesting education?
I don't know exactly what Ali means by
I know
activist, but
I absolutely have no idea because I don't know about the topic, so I can't really talk about it.
Yeah, I know the New South Wales government cracked down on the Black Lives Matter protests. That they were having.
They shut it down.
So they're having just like a carte blanche, like no protests at the moment, no large gatherings that can spread coronavirus because it has a really high R0 value that can infect people.
But when you're in a position of power and you tell people they're not allowed to do something, they're always going to come up with, "Oh, you're infringing my freedoms."
Yeah, you're correct. Like, it's like the thing is like,
and look, it does happen.
Don't
right?
do,
we're not
don't do
saying
something.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's like, don't do something. It's like, no, screw you. I'm gonna do it, right?
Yeah.
Like when somebody
like obviously they're important issues. I'm not saying that they're not important. They're important issues, but like there's a time and a place. Yeah, there's time and place for things. And
you mean there's context?
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe.
Some people just forget that there's context, unless it supports whatever they're trying to argue or protest about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how they believe, that media lies, and then media say something.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you go to war, and it's okay when under the context of war, Yeah. So context.
But yeah, like that's the thing, right? I think at the moment, it is obviously hard, and we are in a unique situation here in Victoria, right? And especially compared to the other states, they're having a great time out in like Queensland, in New South Wales, in South Australia. We're kind of stuck in our own kind of local area where we're locked down. We got to be within 5 kilometers of each other. I think that's what's really important. What's really important is having Victorians kind of come together and kind of letting each other know that, like, hey, we're still here. We're going to get out of it. We're not going to. It's not going to be like this forever, right? Like, this is going to end. And as negative as maybe that you might be feeling, because like again, it's isolating having to.
And stay... I think the way Dan Andrews kind of talked about like the different stages and that in his press interview on Sunday, I think that kind of made it look very negative. But you got to think about it like he's talking from a objective standpoint. So yeah, you might think it sounds negative, but it is what it is. Like, it's the same with like doctors when they have to deliver tough news. They can't be emotional. They can't give people false hope. They have to tell people exactly how it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And
yeah.
and yeah, I think it's important for Victorians to still like kind of interact. Like again, with this crazy roadmap that we're kind of dealing with. Eventually, we'll have 3 people or how many other people in your house. But in the meantime, there's still avenues that you can still interact with people. Give them a call, talk to them on Zoom like we are here.
I
Lots
think
of
people are
different
just
ways
tired of
to
that. They've been
keep.
doing that since March, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
run weekly poker matches with your your friends and family members.
And your son.
Yeah. So
But
just want to
do not do a podcast.
Yeah, you're not allowed.
Ali also mentioned that there
Mhm.
is context to what his statement said, because when I read it initially, I was like, why are you talking about New South Wales? Like, we're not talking about New South Wales and a protest in New South Wales. But apparently the education protests, the activists, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get people to understand what's happening in New South Wales with their budget cuts and how they're holding on to the money, so they're not releasing funds into the education system,
Mhm.
and they're unable to protest.
He followed that up with another question.
Yeah.
I'll let you read it out. Do you see it on the chat?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look,
yeah,
there's definitely, there's always it's like we said before, it's never that easy, right? Like it's take it away.
No,
Take it away.
I don't know how clearly I can really say it. Like again, they're trying to reduce the likelihood of people being infected. It doesn't matter if there's low transmission rates. It doesn't mean that there's low transmission rates purely because there's not a lot of people infected. It doesn't make the virus less likely to infect people just because there's not enough people who are infected. Like all you need is large gatherings.
Just the one person.
And the one person, because like I mentioned, like
and then
people,
that's why it's called an outbreak. That's how
an outbreak, right? Yeah. And again, we went through it in our first podcast about like the R0 values, right? And it's how many people can be infected, how many people one person with a disease can spread it, right? And I think the current prediction is 3, so it's got like
2.79.
So so for every one person infected, you can spread it to 3 other people, and it becomes exponential from there. So having physical protesting is a big health risk, and that's the reason why protests are being limited. And fundamentally, that's it. There are other ways that you can protest. It doesn't have to be physically. That's it. Like that's all. Social media is a great avenue that people are using. Like all the stuff that we were talking about earlier about the Uyghur Muslims. I think like you were saying, Sam, like you learned all about that from social media, right? Like I'm kind of lucky that I had someone telling me, but like a lot of the people who are learning about it is through social media. So to raise awareness about an issue, do it on social media. Yeah, there's other avenues.
Get on Zoom. Hold get 4,000 people on an online Zoom activist thing.
Yeah, I think there's a really good statement made by Tawhidul. Considering a state's government's budgeting is usually dictated by health and education, in the current climate, health takes precedence. I agree.
And
I think health.
Hopefully, that can be reflected. We want to see.
You can't have a government without people.
Yeah, very sensible.
People are all dead.
Whoever that is, whoever that made that comment, very sensible person. Very sensible comment.
You're not wrong, Tak. You're not wrong. We do need people in a society.
Fatima, can you please elaborate on what you mean by do physical protests even more?
I think she means
as in do more physical protesting.
Oh, do physical protests work? Okay, yeah.
Oh, right. Do they work?
I think it was a typo, maybe.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of activism. Okay, again, this is probably better for another topic about activism and stuff, because we're hitting the 2 hour. Are we past the 2 hour mark?
Almost
past the 2 hour mark.
So we should wrap up.
Yeah, we'll probably wrap it up.
I had a question. For Fatima, we'll come back to that one because obviously COVID's something that's ongoing. It's not going to stop anytime soon. So
we'll be talking about it for the weeks
about it, and we can even talk about if there, who knows, another protest. Let's hope not. But if there is,
well, apparently there is one on Saturday again. Part 2.
Exactly. So
I don't think why these people are going to these protests. They're just honeypots. Like even if you believed it, right? Even if you believed that, it should be like V for Vendetta, where you think the government is setting this up just so they can arrest you. This is essentially what it is. Like, don't go.
Dan Andrews is in his office, setting up all these
on social media. Yeah.
It's
like 1,000 people said they're interested. Are they?
Let's create a dragnet to catch all the people that don't like me.
I kind of want to, like, since we're closing up, I want to pose a question to you guys, but also the viewers. If you were Victoria's premier right now and you looked at the roadmap, what is one thing you'd change? I mean, obviously everyone knows the one thing you'd change is to have this roadmap back in March, right? I think that's easy.
Can't go back in past. We can't go. Yeah.
Now that you can't go back and you've seen the roadmap and stuff, what is one thing you think you'll change?
I think I like the ideas. Like, while curfews suck, curfews are kind of good to kind of prevent the nighttime activities that can lead to the rises and kind of undetectable, unknown mystery spreads of COVID-19. So maybe maybe stretching it out to being like maybe like 12 or something like that, like 11 if we want to really kind of meet in the middle. And look, one of the big problems.
11 p.m.
11 p.m.
Fatima asked me to repeat the question, so I'll repeat it for everyone in the chat as well. If you were the premier and you looked at the roadmap, like before it got released, what is one thing you'd change, or one thing you don't agree with on this roadmap, or have like a better solution for?
And so I was saying, maybe kind of not completely remove the curfews. Like again, I know curfews kind of suck, and I agree. But
like
maybe
stuff can
maybe there could be like a compromise, compromise of like, maybe you extend the curfew a little bit, but then you're allowing more people to have like maybe 2 people come and visit like one house. Because one of the big things is like people are getting like, like we mentioned before, like, suffering from things like depression and loneliness and stuff like that. And that comes from a lack of socialization. So giving more opportunities for people to socialize is a good way to kind of alleviate that particular measure. So having like a kind of restricted period in which we can kind of go out and have, party, like restricting like mass partying and stuff, which is, pretty hard to kind of quote unquote monitor. But still allowing people to socialize in a more, intimate and smaller like scale would be far effective, in my opinion, at kind of alleviating the kind of mental health aspect of the issues with the lockdown.
So Tahito made 2 comments. He said, Dan needs to explain why other avenues wouldn't work in comparison to what we have at the moment, because he, presents it as the only solution.
Yeah, I completely agree. Dan keeps saying, the modeling, I don't have the luxury of ignoring the modeling. I'd like to see the different modeling that you've applied. And see what,
because he did share like he shared a graph just earlier today, and it made no sense to me.
The infographic?
Yeah, the infographic made barely any sense. Like, it just looked like, someone just drew arbitrary lines, and if we open up now, it's going to look like this. But how do you reach that conclusion?
What I'd like to know is, after the sacrifice that all the Victorians have made over the last 6 months in various levels of lockdown, what is the end of the road actually look like? So let's say we make another 3 months of sacrifice. That's fine. We pull together, we do it. After that, what does it look like? Because at the moment, I'm still not sure that Victoria as a state will be able to get those numbers actually down to 0 and keep it at 0 for any long period of time.
I think the reason why there's a curfew at the moment is because it's one way to restrict people from leaving out at late night, and it makes it easier for the authorities to see how the movement is, because at night you can get away with a lot of things, man.
I completely agree with the curfew. I think that curfew is a good idea.
And you don't know how many people are out together.
Asking, especially Sabik, he asked if curfews are taken down, it's not like people are going to go to pubs because they're closed.
It's not the pubs. It's not the pubs I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
It's a gathering.
It's
a secret gatherings. Yeah, that's what they're trying to prevent. Because
logically, at night there's low visibility, so you
Yeah,
can get
yeah.
away with a lot
You
more.
can get away with it.
And
And
people,
like I
people are more
said,
likely to be asleep, so they're less
Yeah.
likely to kind of see
Snitch
people
on you.
who, less likely to snitch. But then, like, it also makes you more, makes you more self-aware and like self-conscious about, ooh, I'm having like 100 people at my house for a giant party. Ooh,
Well,
am I
they
gonna
are-
get away with it?
well, Sabik, you're right. There are secret gatherings happening, and that now if you remove that curfew, that number will literally it will explode. It will be
explode,
there will be an exponential increase. So you have to.
I mean,
yeah,
I mean, again,
Like when
it's
I
all
heard,
prevention. It's all
I mean,
when I
look at
heard
Al
that,
Taqwa. Look
Yeah.
at Al Taqwa that we mentioned earlier. They had like 100 plus people at that like
I mean, like,
thing.
yeah, I mean, you look at like the curfew, because there was a draft that came out before the actual thing, and people are saying, oh, there's still going to be curfew and that. I always knew, like, not always, but like I had a feeling that the curfew would get shortened a bit, but not by much. Like the curfew will still exist, and I think that it was.
Well, I think Dan
Yeah.
explained why the curfew was increased by an hour, and that's because of we're getting more daylight hours, right? So that's
Oh,
why he's
like as
increasing it.
in daylight savings. or
Daylight
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
daylight savings. So
Really?
because we're
Really?
no, the
That's
days
the
are getting
reason?
longer at
Yeah,
the moment. So he's giving us the extra hour because
Oh.
of the way the days are getting longer at the moment.
Thank
So
you.
the closer
Lord
we approach
Dan.
summer, the days get longer, right?
Lord Dan.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'll
thanks
take
for the
anything
extra
at the
hour,
moment.
Can
Give me
send it to Palpatine.
another 15 minutes and I'll say yes. Yeah.
I do agree with Tohito in the comment section. There is definitely a sense of conservatism more than pragmatism. So that is good. Yeah, that is the case, and that's what we're trying to
Well,
also
it's
say.
because his first instinct
He-
was
he
to
did-
Yeah,
not
he
lock
did a shit
down.
job.
It's
Yeah.
like, it was he was the
He opened
complete
up too
opposite
quickly.
extreme.
Yeah, he opened things up way too quickly, and it
And
got
for-
out of control. And now he's trying to save his neck. So
Yeah,
he is going to take that safe approach.
He's
He's
erring
gonna-
on the side of caution.
So I guess
Yeah.
I guess the final question would be, are you guys voting for Dan next state election?
I think he'll
Depends.
retire, mate. Like,
Yeah, oh, you
I don't
reckon?
He'll have to
he's
leave.
I don't
done a
think he's gonna
decade's
be-
worth of work in the
Having a
last
chair.
6 months.
Yeah.
So the
That's
guy
a lot of
deserves to
stress
just
on a
retire.
person, yeah.
He's
And
going
then
to take a back seat for
maybe
sure.
we'll put, and then maybe someone else put him under curfew.
Yeah, and then the Liberal government are going to do an investigation into the handling of
Yeah,
the
we
Andrews
predicted.
government.
Yeah.
I predicted that in the previous podcast. It could
Yeah.
happen. Who knows? Some kind
definitely
of
Royal
we'll
Commission.
see.
For
Royal Commission, that's it, Royal Commission.
What are your ideas? Maybe we'll vote for you. I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
vote for
Well,
Tim.
you should stand up.
She does have good ideas sometimes. Like she told us
Yeah.
we should all play charades, and we clowned her, but it was actually a pretty good game. So props to you, Fatima.
Ali
but-
wants us to vote for the Victorian Socialists. I don't know if that's going to
I
happen.
don't,
Yeah,
I
sorry,
don't-
Ali.
Yeah.
You still need to convince me, buddy. Oh, yeah.
We're not convinced yet. You can come for round 2 and 3 and 4. So you're always welcome, man.
But I think that's a good place for us to kind of wrap
Wrap
up.
it up.
In the show, yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
thank you
End the
everybody
show
for
on a
coming out.
positive note.
Yeah.
Everyone,
Thanks for coming out and listening to us. And it's 6 weeks. 6 weeks of
yeah.
podcasts. Like
I flew
I don't know.
by, man.
Yeah, it does.
Still-
Every-
Lies.
I still remember when Simon messaged us all and it's like, hey, let's keep podcasts. And honestly, I didn't think it would happen, but here we are.
It did.
Yeah,
Here we are.
Yeah.
So if you like the content that we make, remember to like and subscribe. Recommend us to people. If you like the content that we do, it really helps grow the channel.
Yeah.
And on
And
Friday,
if you want to critique what we do as well, so
Yeah, of course, leave a comment.
We'd like to
Leave a
get your
comment.
suggestions.
Yeah.
Do you want us to be more fact based? Do you want us to like present little quotes and statistics up on the screen? Tell us what you want, and
Yeah.
Also-
Tack will make it happen.
yeah, you the people.
I don't know about me.
Yeah.
Merch
Ibak
is
wants us-
something.
Merch.
Yeah.
Merch, make merch.
I'm in the process. I don't know how exactly it's gonna work. but
Okay, hey,
I'm in
that's it. Hey, look, Tax responsible. He said there's gonna be merch. All right,
Jeez,
that's
I
what he
shouldn't
said.
have said that on the podcast.
Yeah, you said it's official. It's on the 6th episode of Mind
Mate,
Over
there's
Matters.
literally video evidence.
Yeah,
of you
literally.
saying-
They caught me in
and
4K out here.
and we're going to be having our Mind Under Matters show on Friday.
On
so come
Friday.
check it.
There was actually a really interesting question that an answer, sorry, to our question for this episode that I'm going to push for Friday.
Okay.
And I think that's a good sort of preview for one of the things we'll talk about on Friday. So one of our very loyal followers on Instagram asked us if we should to talk about the talking stages during lockdown. So for those who aren't familiar on talking stage, it's a little something the kids like to do these days. Just before a relationship, they talk a bit, get to know each other.
Right.
So how quarantine and lockdown has affected that.
Have we become
Simon,
a
you gotta
love line?
join
Is that
in.
what's
You gotta
happening
join
now?
in.
Simon
You gotta,
definitely
you gotta give
knows
us a
what
two
we're talking
cents.
about.
Don't shake your head like that, man.
Simon's like, oh no, it's time to
Keep
go.
going.
Steve.
I'm
his
interested
wife
about
and
this
kids-
this thing you call in a relationship.
Hey.
What is it? Talk.
The
Something we're all
talking
kids.
stage.
Talking?
We're all kids.
Talking
Okay.
stage. We can
Yeah,
even
Fatima.
have Fatima
No.
on it.
Yeah,
man.
Fatima,
Mate,
now
from
you're
where
saying
I'm from,
you have
go
to be
straight
on
to
it
marriage.
now.
Oh, she's volunteered. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all right. We got to get
Yeah,
her on
lock
then.
it in.
Even though Simon has
First
been
female guest.
even
will be
even though
Fatima.
Simon is married and has a kid who both watch this show, he can talk to us about talking stage.
Yeah, man.
I feel like he has a lot of experience.
I don't think he's ever talked to anyone in his life, mate. But yeah,
Can I deny him?
again, come check us out on Friday. We love the support, and thanks for. I think we're on our 4th episode. For
Fourth episode, Mind
Under Matters. So yeah, thanks for that, guys. I guess we'll see you next week, and we'll see you
Yeah,
Friday.
everyone.
See ya.
Bye.
Later.